This is an interview with Mr. Sandy Jackson, Jr. at Miles College on April 30th, 1996. How are you today, Mr. Jackson?
Doing fair.
Good. Just fair, huh?
Just never good. Just fair.
Okay. Sandy, that's your given name.
That's me.
And you're always asked that question.
Right, yes, quite often.
Was it because you had sandy hair when you were born, or where did you get that name?
I was named after my father.
Okay.
And I don't know about his hair, what it's sandy now, because he don't have much left now.
So you don't know offhand the history of the name
I think
Sandy?
his father was named Sam.
Okay.
So maybe that was something from Sam.
Okay.
Yeah, and
sounds good.
then I named my son Sandy, so there's three of us.
Okay, keep them
And all three of us get the same problem.
Okay.
The name Sandy.
Okay. You were born in a place, a lot of places I've not heard of, but Scuba,
Yes.
Mississippi.
That's down by Meridian, Mississippi.
Okay.
Well, I'd say maybe an hour and a half ride from Meridian.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. Where did they get that name, Scuba?
Oh, now you
scuba diving, maybe?
Yeah. No, it's no river. It's no ocean or nothing there for scuba diving. I don't know. It's pronounced Scooba. Well, it's spelled Scooba.
Okay.
So I don't know how they got that name. Yeah.
Okay. That's always interesting conversation, different names and things of that nature.
Because a lot of names come from Indian in
Yes,
Alabama,
that's
so
true.
I don't know about that name, though. I never heard of Indian named Scuba.
You were born in Scuba, and you lived there, and you remember living there until you were about 7 or 8 years of age.
Right.
What was the community like where you lived that you can recall?
Well, our houses were maybe a mile apart or longer.
Okay.
Your neighbor's neighbor. And we were living like a sharecropper, my mother and my father was.
Really?
Yeah.
So you tended the land?
Yes. They planted the cotton and the corn, and they had to cultivate it and all that stuff, then picked it for the white man. Yeah.
And do you remember helping or doing anything?
Yes, especially at cotton time. They would give me a little sack, and I would fill my sack up, and I would dump it into my mother's sack.
Really?
And you got paid for so many pounds.
Uh-huh.
So I was helping fill her sack up.
So for you as a youngster of 7 or 8 years of age, was that fun, or did you consider it work?
It wasn't work because it's something that I didn't have to do. Mm-hmm. And when it's something you don't have to do, then it's not work. It's fun.
Okay.
And then when you get older and then you got to do it, then you resent it because they make you do it.
Okay. So we're going to kind of go back and forth a little bit here, but as a youngster helping your mom and dad with the cotton, what were some of the other things that they had that you helped them with?
Well, we had the farm animals, like the pigs and the cows and the horses. You had to feed them.
And you helped to feed the pigs?
Yes.
Did you ever see any of the little piglets when the pigs had
yeah, several times. They always running around, hungry.
Okay. And as an adult now, when you look back or when you tell or have told your children about what you remember growing up, what did they think? They say, Granddaddy or Daddy, did you really pick cotton?
Yeah, because they see that kind of stuff on television. They never been experiencing it. And they really don't believe I believe what I tell them. So I really tells them that those things happen. And some of the conditions were worse than was when I came along. Because things were a lot different, a lot easier on me than it was on my mother and father when they were my age.
What are some of the things that you can recall when you helped to pick the cotton and feed the pigs? Can you remember anything that, thinking back, well, I wonder why my mom and dad have to do this, or why does this man, the white man, live over there and we have to stay here? Or did any of that faze you at that time?
Not too much, because that was a way of life then. And if you're used to doing something, you don't question it. You just live from day to day. And that was the way of life down there. Everybody was doing it. So I thought, that's the way it be. If you're poor and you're among poor people, you don't know you're poor.
That's
until
true.
you move to someone rich, and then you know you're poor.
You realize.
Yeah.
What about the house that you lived in? Do you remember about that?
Oh, just a little shack We had to put newspaper over the holes sometimes
Over
to
what
keep the elements from coming in, the cold and the wind.
Over the, was it a wooden or
Yes,
frame?
it's a wooden frame house.
But you
and
had
it got
windows.
real old. And as the thing got older, you got holes in it. And we had to seal the holes up with newspaper.
Really? But
Well,
did you
really,
have
it
a-
wasn't newspapers. You would get Sears Roebuck catalogs because they send that in the mail. National Belly has catalogs.
The who's
and
the-
National Belly has. That was a order.
National Belly Hats? What was that?
That was a place that you order your clothes from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like Sears Roebuck catalog. And you mail order, and they would send it to you. And they would always send out their magazines because they know someone was going to order something if they get it. And you use that book for a lot of things.
What was the floor made of?
Wood.
Okay, so you had a wood
Yeah.
floor.
No carpet or nothing, just wood.
And how many rooms did you live in?
Well, we had 4 rooms. Well, really, we had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and another room that was a little small room that could be used as a bedroom.
And that was your mom and your dad and you
And my sister,
and a sister.
she's the oldest.
Okay. So then you left Mississippi. How did you end up leaving Mississippi? I mean, did your parents get a better job? Did something happen, or that you can recall?
My father left first because he had some friends and some cousins lived in Birmingham. They got a job at Steel Mill. And so they told him that if he came, they would get him a job. So he slipped off and came to Birmingham so that he can get a job at Steel Mill.
So the family that you sharecropped for, do you remember the name offhand?
Buddy Gilbert was the man's name.
Okay. How was Mr. Gilbert? Was he nice, or did you?
He was like most white people. He was dominant white man. And he really wanted you to work. He didn't want no mess out of you. That's the part that I can gather, by being young. But I thought, like I say, I thought that was the way of life. And my father had to slip off to get here.
So when he left, and when you talk about that, even though you're still a young man, it's almost like you're thinking back when you would have thought that somebody was telling you the story, that this didn't really happen. This is what we see on television.
Right.
You look at things, but you actually experienced this.
Yes.
Which is going to take us from where you were as a child up to the civil rights movement and things that happen now and looking at what happened then. So you work for the Gilbert family, and what did your dad do? Like one day you just woke up and did you ever hear your parents talking and Daddy's going to leave and we can't say anything?
Well,
Take us
I don't remember the part about them talking about it too much.
Okay.
But I know only part that I can remember back that far is that he did leave and he was gone for a while. And then when he came back, they had this big truck, and we threw everything in the truck, and we left.
And didn't tell Mr. Gilbert?
No, you better not tell him. He was gonna make you stay. And we came to Birmingham, and my mother and my sister and I had to ride in the back of the truck. And before we can get to Birmingham, it started raining, so they had a big tarpaulin that we had to cover ourselves with to keep from getting wet and whatever belongings we had.
So did you have any furniture that you got out of the house that you
Well,
can
just
remember?
a little bit, not much.
So
Because
you
it
and your
wasn't too much in good enough shape to bring here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you're leaving Scuba,
Yeah,
and you're coming to Birmingham, to the big city.
yeah. Two scared kids.
Were you really scared?
Yeah, we never experienced that before. Never left that. So you're afraid.
Yeah. So you got to Birmingham. What do you remember?
Well, I remember, I think it was dark when we got here. And I remember they moving stuff into the house that we moved into. I think the house probably had 3 rooms. And I can remember that part.
Okay, so you came to Birmingham, and you were, I guess, maybe 8, 9 years of age.
About 8,
by
about
that
7,
time.
8.
And you lived in a place called Capstown?
Capstown.
Capstown. Do you remember where that?
That's on the other side of Mogo. It's on the other side of Ensley, Alabama.
And Mulga and Ensley are kind of close together?
Yes. You go past Ensley where the steel plant is. You know where the viaduct is?
Yes.
Okay, you go that way, and you end up in all these places. You got Mogo, Capstown, Booger Heights, Stacy Hollow, All
We're going
those
to talk about
little
Stacy
community. Yeah.
Hollow a little bit. Let's talk about Capstown. What do you remember about school and the house where you lived? Did you feel then, boy, we have this big house and we're rich now, or what did you think?
Well, I really enjoyed it because I was around other kids, and you didn't have to go this mile to play with other kids, and I didn't have to play with my sister all the time. And
She
my
probably
cousin,
liked not having
I
to
had
play
a
with
cousin
you.
that was the same age as my sister, and they would make me be the dog because that's the only way I got a chance to play with them. So I got a chance to be around other boys.
So that must have been fun, huh?
Yeah, it was, and
Okay.
going to school.
When you were in Scuba, did you go to school?
Yes, we went to church school. All the grades was in one room,
Was it all black or black and white?
all black.
And of course, you had a black teacher, I would imagine.
Yes, she taught from first grade to the 12th.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and you didn't have maybe 15, 20 kids in the whole school from first to 12th.
So now at Capstown, you go to school.
Yeah, you got a big school now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, really exciting.
What did you think about that?
Well, at first you like say you're afraid because this is something new, and you're not used to being in all these different rooms. But then after a while, you get used to it. Someone showed you what to do, so it became natural, and you enjoyed it.
Okay. Now then there was Stacy Hollow. That
Yes.
was in the same
Same
community?
same area. Just maybe like Smithville or Titusville, separation, something like that.
How was that for you? What do you remember about that?
I remember growing a lot of my good years there. My mother and my father was together at that time because later on years they divorced. And I was raised basically by one parent. But those were good times because they were together, and me and my sister and everybody was happy.
And now you're getting a little older, and you're moving you lived on Innan Ridge and then in Titusville. So what were those areas like, and what were the people like in the community?
Well, Inner Ridge is a very nice community at that time, and had plenty of kids, because you done got to a bigger community.
Yeah.
And I remember going to Tug Elementary School, and always done well in school.
What age were you then? This was like maybe 53.
Okay, I finished Tug in 53, and I guess we stayed on Inner Ridge maybe 3 or 4 years prior to my graduating from Tug. I can't remember back
Sure,
that far
it's okay.
because ages got to the mind.
But did you ever think back? Now you're finishing school. Did you think back, and did you ever go back to visit down at Mr. Gilbert's place?
Well, yes, I've been back, but the house that I was born in is no longer there. And I have a aunt, my father's aunt, sister, live in that area, and we goes down maybe twice a year to see her.
But did you go back when you were a kid, when the house was still there, maybe?
Well, I went back in that area, but I never did go to that house because my aunt, my aunt still lived over there, and my grandmother lived there in that area, not as I say maybe a mile or two from the house that I used to live in. And we would go down in the summertime and live with my grandmother.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that must have been really interesting, and thinking back, boy, we used to live down here and look where we're at now. What did you think?
I think we come a long ways, and I was grateful for my father for bringing me out of there before I got to be up in age where I had to take care of my own self. And I came to Birmingham, I was able to do a better job of taking care of myself here than I would have been down there.
If you were there.
Yeah, because there's no jobs that much.
That time. Now you finished Tuggle, and you're living in Titusville, and you lived in the West End section. So you're getting into almost being a teenager now.
Yes.
Where did you go to high school?
Parker, H. Parker.
And when you were
The school.
Oh, the school. What was the rival school during that time?
Omaha. That Omaha was in Titusville. And the reason why I got a chance to go to Parker because my transcripts left Tugger and went to Parker. Even though I was staying in Titusville, I was supposed to go to Omaha.
Oh.
So that was a big rivalry between Parker and Ullman and myself and my friends that lived over there that went to Ullman also. So I got it on both sides.
How did you find out when you were in high school? What was your community like? And as it relates to the police officers, were they very visible in communities? Was your family active in church? What was that like?
Okay, I grew up in Loveland's Village Housing Project.
Okay.
As a teenager. I was there until my senior year in high school. Mm-hmm. And at that time, there were no black policemen, only white. And they were very rude. If they came in the neighborhood and you were standing around, they told you they wanted that corner, you know what they meant. When they go back around the block and come back, you better be gone.
So if you and some of your friends were like kind of standing out on the corner and just talking or whatever, and they rode by and they wanted that,
they say they want that corner, you know what to do. You better be gone when they come back around. Because if they didn't, they'd subject to get you and put you in the car, take you out somewhere and beat you.
Did that ever happen to any of the guys in your community?
Yes.
Tell us, share with us a little bit about that.
I've heard of, never known it for sure, but I've heard guys say that they picked guys up, especially at night. Mm-hmm. And they would take them up to around a place called Memorial Park. You know what Memorial Park is?
Memorial Park on 6th Avenue?
That was a good place to take them. Mm-hmm. And they would whip them, and then they sometimes bring them back, and sometimes they just let them out right there.
Mm-hmm. So you made sure you did what they said?
Oh, yes. And my mother made sure that I was in the house.
What was living in Loveland's Village like during that time? Because it's a housing community. Was it a place that you felt that this was, it's really nice and
yes,
brick buildings?
When we left Inner Ridge and moved to Loveland Village, our living conditions were improved quite a bit compared to where we were staying.
Okay.
And we thought, well, this is it. This is where we were going to be for the rest of our life because it was a big change.
Mm-hmm. Very nice change.
Yes, very good change. Mm-hmm. And the community was rough, but you had to adjust to everything. Mm-hmm. Because being a housing project, it was nothing close to being like it is now. Mm-hmm. But you have bad elements and you have good elements. And you have to judge yourself accordingly where you want to fit into it.
What about church? And did your mom work during that time?
My mother was house cleaner.
Okay.
She worked over Mountain Brook and places like that, clean up the house.
How was that for her? What did she?
It was a job that you had to be there every day because you didn't work, you didn't get no money. Mm-hmm. And she was making around $3 a day.
$3 a day.
Yeah, and that was taking care of her and my sister. And then when I got 13, I got a job working at a grocery store.
What did you do at the store?
I was riding a bicycle and delivering grocery, cleaning up or whatever needed to be done. And after I stayed there for so long, I became a butcher, a cashier. And
so then you moved up.
Yeah, sometime he would, like on Wednesday was the slowest day, which it still is now in most places.
Okay.
He would close a half a day, and if I was out of school, I would run the store that day.
Oh,
yeah,
so you've been a store manager.
Yeah.
What store was it? Do you remember?
Walton's grocery store on 1st Avenue South.
Okay, 6th Avenue South and.
Yeah, on First Street and 1st Avenue.
And so that was part of your working career.
That was my first job.
Mm-hmm. And so you helped out at home with.
Yes.
Now at this time, your mom and dad were divorced. Or were they still together?
They was divorced. My mother and father divorced. I guess. Maybe been 10. I guess 11. I'm not sure.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you were the man of the house.
Yes.
How was the community, and were you active in church?
Yes, my mother insisted that we go to church, and I became a junior deacon in the church.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it because that you was raised up to do that. You go to church, no matter how bad conditions were, or whatever. You put on whatever you had, and you went to church.
Mm-hmm. What was it like with police? We talked about the police officers in the housing community where you lived. Did they ever talk anything about the movement at church or the Klan or anything like that?
Well, it wasn't too much then because people in a whole was afraid to talk about those things because they were scared something was going to happen. And then after a while, the Black Panther movement became popular in this Birmingham area. Mm-hmm. And that's when I remember the young guys started talking up about, what they would do, and the white man can't do this and can't do that. But I never was a follower of the Black Panther movement because I didn't believe in it. Mm-hmm. I didn't believe in violence. Mm-hmm. So I didn't join it.
Uh-huh. So Did you lived? This was in Indian Region. You lived in Titusville.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about after you finished high school, or were you a part of the movement in high school, or was it after then?
A part of no, it wasn't really active when I was in high school.
Okay.
I finished high school in '58,
Okay.
January. I went Air Force in June.
Okay. Now
Yes.
you go in the Air Force, and I guess you traveled somewhat
Quite a bit.
in the Air Force. You meet all kinds of people.
Yes.
Did you ever think back about Mississippi? Did you ever meet anybody who was from there?
Sure.
What was that like?
Met a lot of people from South, and we became good friends. But we knew that once we came back South, it was going to be a separation.
Many men and women who've been in the military talk about the bonding and the closeness and the kinds of things where men and women have saved each other's lives. They've been like brothers and sisters in the military and traveling. And then when you come back home, it's altogether different.
Altogether different.
What was that like?
It really is disheartening to you. You've done your duty. You think you've served your country. And then it's a certain time in your life that if you go back to this area, things going to be like there was before you came. And it wasn't, I didn't think it was right, and a lot of other people did. And a lot of the white guys didn't think it was right. But they knew that when they came back down here, how it's going to have to be. It was still going to have to be. They was white and I was black.
What about other types of relationships where men and women of different cultures and different races have met and even wanted to get married and maybe even marry over in another country, and then they come back here? I mean, what if that ever happened to any of the people that you knew in the military? And
Not close. I wasn't close to any of those guys. I know one friend of mine. He was older than I, and he had been in the Air Force quite some time, and I met him in Japan, and he married a Japanese lady, and he spoke fluent Japanese, and I would go around with him because he could talk and I couldn't, you know.
So he was your mouthpiece.
Yeah, he was my mouthpiece. So, but seemed like he and his wife, I never did meet his wife because he left for the States, but seemed like they had a pretty good relationship, and the community that they were in, because they were staying in one of the northern states.
So that was
and down south, it probably would have been a little rougher. Yeah.
When did you first hear about or get involved with the movement? I know you finished high school, you were in the military, and then you came back to Birmingham.
Okay. I got out of the Air Force in '62, and I think the movement had just started then. It wasn't really big thing then. I think in '63 is when it really started blooming. And that's some of the times that we had the demonstrations, the marches and stuff like that.
Did you participate in any?
Not at first, I didn't, because I didn't see a need for me to be down there where they're throwing the bricks and stuff like that. So I didn't participate in.
And that's
I would go to some of the meetings at the Baptist Church, 16th Street Baptist Church.
Okay.
I would go to that sometime.
Let's talk a little bit about the marches and why at that time you, like many others during that time, says, well, no, I don't need to do that. And why did people feel that way, or why did you feel that way at that time?
Well,
then bring us up to how
the part that I could see didn't seem like that was going to do any good, because this situation has been like this for years. And I guess it's just like being a slave. So I'm a slave, and I will continue to be a slave, and there's no way for me to get out of this. And even though you got someone on the other side over there of the wall telling you that you can, you don't believe it. And then after a while, you see things are changing, and there's hope that maybe you won't have to be a slave again, or you won't have to be down in this hole. Someone is up there reaching to pull you up.
Yeah.
And you start struggling to get out of it. And that's how I felt about it.
So
because I saw something was happening that was going to make a change. At first, I didn't think it would. I just thought it was someone making noise.
What tempted you? How did you get involved? Tell us about that.
Well, the really deep part I got involved is I was at work one day. I was working for a North Carolina Mutual Insurance Company.
Okay.
And I was on my way from the office to my car.
And where was the office located?
Okay, the office was located in Masonic Temple Building, downtown on 4th Avenue and 16th Street. Okay, I was on my way to get in my car, and the people were demonstrating that day. And that was the day that Bull Connor had promised that if the blanks got out there and started demonstrating, that he was going to do this and do that. So I went down to get to my car, and I saw a friend of mine that worked at the insurance company. He was trapped out there in the park, and they had the hose pipe going. He was behind this tree, and they were trying to squirt him with the hose pipe. So everybody was down there looking, and several other people were down there getting squirted with the hose pipe also. So I said, well, I'm going to stop and see what's going on. And I started calling him, come on, Scott, man, come on from back there. But he couldn't, because if he moved from that tree, they was going to get him and knock him down with the hose pipe. And so everybody started running, and I looked around to see why they was running, and I could see these policemen coming with the dogs. And I said, well, I better go. And then I started moving. I said, well, I'm not going to run, because if I run, they probably will jump on me and knock me down. I said, I'm going to quietly walk onto the car. So I started walking, and I can feel something scuffling behind me. So finally, I look back, and I could see a policeman with a German Shepherd behind me. And the dog was just back there. He wasn't doing anything at first. And then the policeman took the leash and shook the leash. And when he did that, he bit me on my leg.
Oh, my.
And then I went back to the office. And then I said, well, I better go see about my leg, because I said, the dogs probably have their shots, but it's something I need to see about. So I went up to Dr. Bradford's office.
And this was the black doctor?
Yeah, in the Masonic Temple Building.
Okay.
I went up there and I told him what had happened. And he told me, well, I'm sorry I can't help you, because I have my regular customers here, and I got to wait on them first. I said, well, this is an emergency. He said, well, I'll get to you after I get through with them. So I went back down to the office, and I told my supervisor what had happened. His name was Ellis. I can't remember his first name. And he told me to go around to Dr. Hamilton's office. And I went down there, and I got waited on immediately. And after that, I started attending the meetings, and I started walking the streets with the demonstrators and whatever else I could do.
Do you think by you having this confrontation, the dog came after you, do you think that then that you really said, well, this is it?
Yeah.
If this could happen to me, it could happen to somebody else, or it could even be worse, considering that you were in the insurance business.
I think before that happened, I had ideas of getting really involved into it. But that really, really made me get involved.
Did you become angry or about what happened to you? Were you hurt mentally? Like, why would somebody want to do this to me? I wasn't doing anything. Or
I became angry. I didn't want to know why, because I knew why. I knew that they done it because I was a black man. And I became angry. I wasn't hurt because they had done it, because worse thing has happened to a black man than what happened to me, because some had to give their life. And I was fortunate that I didn't have to give my life. My injury was not hospital. I didn't have to go to the hospital for my injury and stay in the hospital. And so I said, well, it's time to start attending the meetings, and I started going to 16th Street Baptist Church. I would go down when we had the parades, there were the demonstrations, and I participated in some of that. I didn't get wholly involved into it, that I had to be there every time something happened, but I did get involved.
16th Street Baptist Church, how involved, to your knowledge, do you remember that church being when it came to the movement?
That was the place to go. Anytime there was anything involved, the movement, anytime anyone big came to town, like Dr. King or anyone else that was going to have a speech, it would be at 16th Street Baptist Church.
Do you remember hearing Dr. King or seeing him or meeting him?
Yes, I saw Dr. King, Reverend Abernathy, and several other big speakers that I can't remember their name, but I remember seeing them and hearing them speak.
What were some of the things that struck you about Dr. King when you think back?
The attention that he can get from other people.
Give us a scenario of one of the times that you may have gone to the church and he came. What was it like?
Well, it's like he would draw, like a magnet. He would draw people to him. And anytime he spoke, people would listen. I believe if he walked in a bar and they was having a brawl, If he walked in and spoke, I believe everybody stopped fighting and listened to what he had to say. That's how strong he was.
When you look at people today, without necessarily naming a name, do you think there is anybody, in your opinion, that comes close to him or similar?
No. No one ever will be that. Not in my lifetime. I hope sometime later on someone will come, but not now. Because it's not, he was a sincere man. And the people now that gets up and tells you about these different things, don't seem like to me they're sincere. It seems like they're just going through the practice of saying what they got to say.
So the sincerity, you think, generally speaking, is missing from organizations today?
It is.
Going to the meetings and being a part of it, what do you think that you learned, or how did the movement help you?
It taught me to give myself self-respect. It taught me that I'm a man just like anyone else, and I have the capabilities to do anything anyone else do. But I had to go out there and seek it. I just can't stay in the house and say, well, I'm a man and I need to do this and do that. You had to go and do it and try it. Because if Dr. King could get up and speak, he could change the laws of the United States, then you don't have to change all the laws. You don't have to speak in front of everybody, because me, I'm a terrible speaker. I can't. So, but it gave me courage to know that I could do certain things, and I try to teach my kids that.
When you talk about kids, and you have some children, and you look at the children today, you look at your kids, you look at when you were in scuba and helping your parents and enjoying it because it wasn't really like work.
Yeah.
What do you think of kids today?
Oh, we have terrible kids now. Kids don't have respect for anything, not even themselves.
Some kids.
Yeah, I say majority now is really on bad terms, as far as their parents or elder people, and they just don't seem like they care. They don't seem like the movement that Dr. King brought mean anything. It's just something they heard about, and they're not exercising the rights that he gave, that he made possible for us, not gave, made possible.
What are some of the kinds of things that you think they need to learn, or how would you fix it, or can it be fixed?
I think the fixing should start at home, when the kid is small. And the fixing had to start with the parents. A lot of parents think, well, they are old enough to go to school, I send them to school and the teacher ought to get them straight. But that's not going to solve the problem. The parent had to start when the kid is young, even when they are in diapers.
Do you think that the movement in any way today can help in that? We see different organizations like the NAACP, the SCLC, or different ones being concerned about youth, particularly African American youth. Do you think that they can help?
They can, but are the kids going to listen to that? That's the problem. The kids are not listening to the adults. They would rather listen to another teenager, or they would rather listen to some rap music than to listen to what an adult got to tell them. And sometimes it's like I still go back to the parents' fault. A lot of parents say, well, you can't tell my kid that. And they don't want anyone to try to tell the kids anything. But that's wrong, because every message that the kids get is not a bad message. A lot of time there's some good messages out there, but they have to listen. Because I've dealt with kids quite a long time. Not just my kids. I coached Little League Baseball for about 12, 13 years. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the kids.
When you talked about being bitten by the dog and you went to Dr. Bradford and then you was told to see a Dr. Hamilton who was in that area. What did he ever say anything to you about the movement, Dr. Hamilton?
Yes, he was really involved in the movement. I mean, he was one of the front people out there in the movement. Yeah, I only remember going to his office one time, but I remember going to his home for something several years ago, but I can't remember exactly what it was for.
What do you think that we can do today in terms of the movement and kids and moving forward? Or do you think we're on the right path?
I don't think we're on the right path. We need to really get involved into the communities with the young kids. Young kids now walking the street, don't have anything to do, and our mind is not in good for anything. Mm-hmm. You have to give a kid something to think about. Give a kid something to do. And I still go back to my days of coaching. The kids that I was dealing with, they was out there worrying about how they're going to hit that ball the next day, how they was going to strike this fella out, or what the score was going to be after we won the ball game, instead of out there trying to figure out how to get some dope or how to break into someone's house. They had other things on the mind. And we as a race don't have enough activity for our kids, because most of the Little League baseball parks are closed now. Mm-hmm. You don't have too much involvement in the communities anymore. And I'm not just saying baseball, is football, basketball.
There's different types of activities.
Different types of activities, even a lot of church activities. Mm-hmm. You don't have enough participation. You don't have enough young kids in church.
Why do you
because no one makes them go to church. It was mandatory that I go to church when I was young.
So did your mom send you, or did she go with you?
She went with us. Mm-hmm. And if she couldn't go, then you still had to go.
Mm-hmm. Is there something that I didn't ask you as you think back over our conversation and how you grew up being involved in the movement, or anything that I didn't ask that you wanted to share before we finish?
I came through with the era that I think was a big change in Black history, Black American lives. Mm-hmm. And I was glad to be a part, the little part that I played, I was glad of that. And I was glad I could get to be a part of the movement and experience what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I wish some of the kids these days, or some, not even kids, see the young adults in their 20s could go through the same thing and learn what we have been through and what parents older than I have been through to get to the stage that they are now. And they're not taking advantage of the opportunities that they have.
That the opportunities are here, we just have
right,
to...
Right, they're not taking advantage of it.
When you speak about opportunities, you talked about it was what we said about picking the cotton and helping out. And you hear kids today, some of them saying that they want work. You see areas where they can get work. They do, some have transportation, but some don't appear to want those jobs. They want higher paying jobs. What do you say to that?
They want to make all the money the second day they're on the job, instead of starting off making a little money and working their way up. If they're not making enough money, they're going to quit. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing you know, they're walking the street again. Because back in the 60s, even before then, even maybe in the 70s, you could stop working at a place across the street and go across the street over there and get you another job. Mm-hmm. But there's no jobs now. And whatever job you get, you have to stay there until you get something better, or until you get a better position on the job that you're on. And then you have an opportunity to make more money. But you're not going to make it as you go in the door. And the youngsters, that's what they want. They want to get that money so they can buy these rings and these earrings and these big cars, because their buddies got this, or their friends are. And sometimes the mothers and parents of other kids have bought these things for them.
One final note, as we talked about the kids, what would you say to parents about being involved with their youngsters more and in the movement? What would you say? Okay,
first of all, we have to raise our kids to be honest and truthful and to have respect for the others. And after we get to be respectful, then we have to teach our kids to be proud of being a Black American. And I think after you get all those things into you, you're never going to be as good as a white man in the white man's eye. But in your eyes and in your feelings, you're better than anyone.
We certainly thank you for this interview. Very interesting.
I enjoyed it, and I hope that I didn't stammer through it too much.
I didn't. Okay.
there was night.